everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast reviews Lucha Underground. This week we are reviewing Season 2, Episode 18, headlined by two big title matches with the Cage, or what they call him Cage, versus Chavo Guerrero for the Gift of the Gods Championship, and a Trios Championship match as well at the end of the show. My name is Turbo Tony. I am the host of this show every single week. Thank you very much for joining along with me here today. And first of all, just before we get into the actual review this week, we've got a couple of things to talk about, and of course our plugs. Let's get them out of the way without no hesitation. Of course, if you'd like to interact with us here on the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast, the best way of doing so is our Facebook group, facebook.com/Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast. That's the place to go to get in contact with us the quickest way. You can leave any comments in the comment section below, of course, as well. And also, if you'd like to tweet us, the place to do so, at TalkWrestlePod, that is the place to go. And if you want to send us any private emails or audio questions, it is Let's Talk Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com. Now, before we get into this week's episode, a little bit of talk over last week's episode and our thoughts and views in regards to that. Didn't seem as if it was received so well by you guys in regards to that. I know we had a comment talking about the disagreement in our thoughts about Killshot, and saying that, you believe that he's been doing pretty well. Listen, it's just our opinion. We're not going to change it if it's unpopular, right? That's the way that we kind of look around the whole situation. Maybe I'm going to speak for myself, but maybe I'm a victim of maybe getting my expectations a little bit too high for the guy, expecting a little bit too much. And it's not, like I said, it's not so much in regards to him, it's just that the fact that he's been not exactly a pivotal character in this season so far. That was the main thing that we were trying to get over. We thought that he would be very much involved with what's going on, when really that hasn't been the case. He's had a couple of exhibition matches, and that's about it. So that's our main thoughts on that as well. Listen, if you dislike it, then that's completely your opinion. Your opinion is fine. And I like the fact that I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but someone left a message in regards to that. Fair play to you. I love hearing other people's opinions and what they feel. That's part of what makes talking about wrestling, right? That's the point of the show. Let's Talk Wrestling. It's part of what makes it interesting and fun to hear other people's opinions and views. But like I said, in the future, I'm still not going to change my thoughts on the show. If I think something bad happened on the show, I'm still going to say it, because it's in my eyes, it's criticism that has come from a founded place, always trying to explain where that criticism comes from and how I feel about it. And even if I think it's going to be an unpopular viewpoint, especially among Lucha Underground fans, which are, very much into the product and very much like it, then I'm still going to come out with it, even if it might be to the detriment of not even the success of the video, but how people perceives it. So I just wanted to leave that out there, because like I said, the last episode wasn't received that well. Over the course of a lot of the episodes we've done, that was probably the one that got the most negative sort of feedback. But still, I just wanted to explain it there. Anyway, let's get into this episode. So we start this week, Vampiro speaking to Pentagon Jr. If you remember, Vampiro is kind of doing his own version of rehabilitation on Pentagon after his back was straight up broken, Bane style, right? Pentagon's now walking. He says that he wants to go back to the temple, but Vampiro tells him, look, you aren't ready. I've been telling you all along, you're not ready to go against Matanza. That obviously doesn't sit too well with the student. He tries to fight with Vampiro, but Vampiro kind of corners him off. He says, look, you're just not ready to face Matanza. You can go back to the temple if you like, but you're not ready to face Matanza. The same thing will basically happen again. That's the scene. But I have to say that, over the course of like 3 weeks, Vampiro's been able to get Pentagon back on his feet. Listen, I've got problems with my legs. People know that here on the channel. I don't walk around too well. Maybe I need to go with the Vampiro program, getting kendo sticks over the head every so often while suspended what looks like a sex swing. Maybe maybe that's the key, right? Maybe that's something I haven't been trying. I like to say that I'll tell you next week if it works, but I don't even know where to procure said items. So maybe I'll just leave that. Maybe that's for the best. The first match of the show, Joey Ryan versus Mascarita Sagrada. Now, you've got to give Famous B some credit here. Since Sagrada has aligned himself with Famous B, we've seen more of the little wrestler than we ever did before. I still want Famous B's business card, by the way, the golden business card. However, his association with Famous B seems to be getting him more matches at the expense of a win-loss ratio that is putting Heath Slater to shame in Raw, right? Joey Ryan here, he does his usual thing. He's rubbing his lollipop all over his chest hair, then just shoving it into his junk. He offers it to the beautiful Brenda, but of course she decides against partaking in what I can only call the STI stick, which is especially what the commentary were basically explaining it to be, right? All jokes aside here, Sagrada is a real good wrestler. He's got some skill. You see some of the stuff he does here. He's got some strength as well. There was one point here where he's even lifting up Joey Ryan, right? Got him on his shoulders, taking the weight. Looked as if it wasn't too much of a problem for the guy. And clearly he's got some athleticism. Not even some, a good deal of athleticism. He does a lot of moves with a lot of confidence. He's a good wrestler, you know. However, Sagrada, with all that aside, he does make a mistake. He goes for the low blow. You just don't do that against the man with the iron penis. That is Joey Ryan. Of course, kicking it is like kicking pure steel, and Sagrada only hurts his own foot. Obviously, Joey Ryan ends up picking the victory up here, as you would expect. It was an okay match. I mean, of course, it was wrestled with a more comical tone, but I enjoyed it. I still think it was good. And Famous B, he kind of had a little bit of a moment here, even though he was kind of talking up his client, almost a little bit like maybe I've picked the wrong guy to make famous here. It was just a split second of him like almost for a moment I thought maybe he was just going to kick him and just walk off, you know, because Sagrada's been losing a lot of matches, so that may be the case. But you know, in terms of exposure, Sagrada's been getting a lot of attention as of late, so. Depends on what you want. If you want to be on the show every week getting beaten, then sure. You know, go Famous B. But still. We see a very cool video package for Taya. She says, oh, what do you see when you look into the mirror? You know, I see confidence, dominance, strength, power. And as she's talking all about this, she's in like this club, right? This lucha-inspired club with all the patrons with lucha masks, naturally, right? And she's beating the shit out of all of them, just taking them out, easy as. She can rock a red dress, I would definitely give her that. She looked pretty good in the red dress. And obviously when she goes out, they've got like a nice sports car. You've got Johnny Mundo in there as well. So a nice little video package for Taya. I thought it would have been maybe better if they had aired this like the week after Taya had debuted. But maybe they just didn't have it filmed at that point. Maybe they weren't entirely sure of where they wanted to go. But it just seems a bit like, while I like the video package, sure, it just seems a little bit out of place, you know? But that's just my opinion. And another thing we see here, King Cuerno in his home with all the trophies he's got in his very illustrious career. Well, now he's got the ultimate trophy, Mil Muertes, in a glass coffin-looking thing, a glass casket, where you can actually see him, and he's completely motionless. It looks even something's happened to his mask has been stitched together, right? Because it was ripped apart in the match, but it's been stitched back together. Yeah, and it's just Cuerno happy that he's got his ultimate trophy. I don't think he'll get a bigger trophy than that. Well, maybe Matanza might be a bigger trophy than Mil. This obviously isn't the last we've seen of Mil Muertes. But I think it's quite ironic that, in a sense, that's where he currently is residing as a trophy for King Cuerno. Cage versus Chavo for the Gift of the Gods Championship. Now, this was a much, much more competitive match than I imagine a large majority of fans would have expected it to be. I mean, even commentary to a degree were treating it as if it was like a foregone conclusion that Cage was basically just going to put a hurting on this guy and take out his frustrations, take the championship and be on his way. It certainly wasn't that. In fact, the offense was a lot it was damn near 50-50 to a point here. There was a cool moment here where Cage was standing on the second rope to suplex Chavo back into the ring. And the reason why I bring that up here is because it's one of the cool things about Lucha Underground is that when you're watching the show, you'll see a move or two each week that you won't have seen at all, or at very least that much. They at very least almost every episode try and fit in something that you haven't seen in the ring before. I can't remember anyone doing a suplex in that manner. I mean, it's so simple, right? I mean, obviously a lot of stuff could go wrong with it, but still, I thought it was quite good. And of course, in the main event, there was a lot of different spots there that you just won't see anywhere else. Chavo lands a frog splash, but Cage kicks out. I thought that, so some people may say, even me to a certain degree may have said, I would have preferred it here if Cage had just squashed him and just done the damage. But because they kept it close and they kind of told the story of Chavo giving it all he had and kind of turning back the clock for one more night sort of thing, putting on, a really good performance, it led to a better match overall. It led to a match that definitely got the fans more involved into it in the building. And it got me more into it, I will say. Having it more competitive like this allowed it to be better in the long run, right? It allowed them to put on a better match because they were able to build up some drama there. So I don't have a problem with that. I think that's completely fine. Cage gets the win with the Lucha Destroy, and he claims the championship after a hearty defense from Chavo. Straight after the match, Cage wastes no time. He tells everyone that he's going to cash in the Gift of the Gods Championship for a chance at the Lucha Underground title next week against Matanza. We haven't actually seen Matanza for a little while, since Graver Consequences. So that obviously is going to be his first match in a couple of weeks there. That's going to be a match. That's going to be a hell of a match. That could be that. I'm a lot more interested in that than I initially was with Cage and Chavo, for obvious reasons. But I still think this match was pretty good, pretty enjoyable. Ty is leading PJ Black and Jack Evans to Phoenix, who was just taken clean out. Mundo appears and he says, "Yeah, well, this is the surprise. I'm taking his place." And of course, PJ Black and Jack Evans don't exactly have any love for Phoenix, so they're like, "Well, fair enough, sure, I'm happy with that." Mundo gives Phoenix a kick, and then all the three guys do some air guitar with sound effects. Yeah, you heard that. I liked the segment until then. It's just not for me. I don't enjoy it. It's a little bit almost like the cheesy sound effects that they used in the Killshot Marty stuff the week before. And I get they're going kind of overboard. That's kind of Lucha Underground's thing. But it kind of made me roll my eyes a little bit here. And I understand that to some people, they just ain't going to like it. Some people just will. That's just kind of the whole ethos of Lucha Underground, as a whole. Some people just won't like certain aspects of it. And that one of it, so I was like, I just don't like it. It just doesn't sit well with me, but still. Joey Ryan. Oh, this is interesting. This is probably the most interesting scene of the entire show. So you've got Joey Ryan, right? He's rummaging through Dario Cueto's office. And if you remember, he's the undercover cop. And the other one is Cortez Castro, who comes in and is asking him, what the hell are you doing? And Ryan basically tells him, look, I haven't got any evidence on Cueto in a couple of months. I need something to give back to our superiors. So I need evidence, and quick. Mr. Cisco walks in on them just at the time where Joe Ryan's basically taking money out of Dario Cueto's office. And he's like, I'm not going to get involved with you guys robbing El Jefe. I'm going to go tell him. I don't want to get into shit for this. Considering he does have a association, at very least, with Cortez Castro. Ryan brandishes a gun. Looks like he's going to shoot him. I thought for a minute he would. But then Castro gets between them and has no choice but to arrest his former partner. Mr. Cisco, I mean, poor guy. I called it ages ago here that he was going to get the blunt end of the stick. This guy who was starting to get over and starting to be treating more like a baby face. You knew it was for this reason because eventually he was going to get betrayed, right? That the guy he would almost call his brother in Cortez Castro has always been at his side since Lucha Underground began, is the one that ends up arresting him and bringing him in. So Where this leads to from here could be very interesting. This is a storyline that they've kept going in the background for a little while, and I still think that Joey Ryan's too crooked for his own good. It's going to come to a point where maybe even with the new Lord, right, apparently entering Lucha Underground, maybe he starts working more on the lines for him rather than for the police force that he's employed to, right? Leading into that Trios Championship match then, Mundo, PJ Black, Evans versus Dragon Azteca, Mysterio, and Prince Puma. Now, Ty obviously comes in. First of all, she explains to everyone in the building, because I like what Lucha Underground do here. They treat the backstage segments as completely, they treat it properly. One of the things that was an issue here with WCW is that they used to really muck up how they would treat their backstage segments and stuff like that. You can go back and look back, and sometimes they would air something in the arena and then not act as if it happened because it happened backstage, even though it happened on the Titantron. Everyone in the arena could see it, right? It was weird, and it just didn't make much sense. Lucha Underground have a very strict thing where they just treat anything that happens backstage, obviously doesn't get aired out to the commentators or anyone inside the building. It only happens there and then, so it makes a lot more sense. So obviously she explains that, Phoenix is out and Mundo's taking his place. The look on Melissa Santos' face here, they do almost just a couple of seconds looking over her. She's got the face of, I can only explain it really, bitch? Really? That's the look that she has here. It's quite funny. So, just a little bit of talk here before we get into the match about Rey Mysterio. Now, I don't think he's had a singles match. I don't even know a better way to explain that. I don't think he's had one singles match so far this season. I've heard a couple of people talk about that. I'm okay with it. Maybe because these tag team matches are easier on him as a whole. You got to think that Mysterio he's got a very travelled body, right? You're looking at a guy who's got fucking decades of wrestling experience. If he only wants to do a couple of moves here, take a couple of bumps there in these tag team matches, and I know he was involved in Aztec Warfare, but that's a multi-person match anyway, right? Then he's still, even in that capacity, he's still so useful for Lucha Underground. And I would much rather take him in this capacity than no capacity at all. I still think he's really entertaining. It's Rey Mysterio, for Christ's sake, right? He's a legend in Lucha Libre. It makes sense for him to be here. This is, again, a good match. Got very good towards the end of it. Now, it's not hugely memorable like some of Lucha Underground's main events. I'm talking about, Grave Consequences, No Mas, some of the big time main events like Mill and Matanza. The very first match they had was really interesting. But it's still well worth watching. It's still good, When you actually look at what the talent is there in the ring. Right, I labelled all those names at the beginning of the match. Man, there's a lot of potential here, right? Even with just Dragon Azteca and Puma, there's a lot of potential of what those guys could do. And then you've got the experience of Mundo and Mysterio. You've got PJ Black and Evans, who people know my thoughts on PJ Black, but I think Evans is pretty damn decent. You've got lots of athletic spots, lots of big athletic spots. There's one here where Puma is flipped off of the top turnbuckle, but he lands on an opponent in the middle of the ring. Hurricane Run is him. The problem with that, though, is that it did look like they were just a millimetre away from fucking it up. It looked like that's a hard move to fucking execute at the best of times. I don't blame them. And they still pulled it off, so fair play. But it did look at a certain point that they had messed it up a little bit, but there we are. Puma hits the 630, but Mundo pulls the referee out to cause it to break the call. And the match starts to go against the champions from that point out. They low blow every single champion, every single guy. Mundo hits his end of the world, but Puma still kicks out after taking even another low blow before that point. And I'm like, if only they had Joey Ryan in their team, right? They could have counteracted the dick kick strategy that the heels had put on show for everyone here. It's the ultimate protection right there. Just put the man with the iron penis there with all the dick kicks and they'll be completely fine. But still, oh well. He was too busy arresting Mr. Cisco, of course. I honestly thought that we'd have new champs at that point. It started very much leading to that point, and when Dragon Azteca rallies but gets hit by a chair while the referee is distracted by Taya, it does crown new champions. Mundo, PJ Black, and Evans defeats the champions. They win the titles with some very classic heel work. They used every dirty trick in the book. You know, low blows, distractions, foreign objects, basically heel wrestling 101. So obviously they got a ton of heat afterwards, a lot of boos. Obviously not a lot of people are going to want to see Mysterio and Puma and Dragon Azteca beaten. So yeah, I don't know where they're going to go from here with them. Maybe a rematch, maybe be on the cards. I'm sure with a rematch they could do something really, really special, you know, with these teams. So yeah, maybe that's down the line, or maybe they've got different plans. Maybe even Ivelisse and Son of Havoc, and Angelico. I mean, we haven't seen Angelico in what seems like forever, right? Since he got taken out, right? So maybe they go in. I'm sure the plans for Ultima Lucha are already going to start sort of taking effect as the weeks go on. I know I've said that for a while, but there isn't as many episodes this season as they were in season 1. So all in all, then, I thought this was a solid show. Well worth a watch. I mean, technically, if you look at it in this point of view, there was 2 title changes here on the show. And I thought all the matches were solid. There wasn't one match that really blew me apart, you know, and thought, wow, this is something that I'm really going to want to tell people to see. But it's still well worth a watch. Not every episode of Lucha Underground could be hugely memorable, like, let's say, No Mas, right? I know I've been singing the praises of that episode. I still think that's the best episode they've done this season. So, apart from maybe Aztec Warfare. But still, a very decent episode. And obviously now we've got a big main event next week with Cage and Matanza, which I'm sure a lot of people will be looking forward to. So, all in all, solid week. My recommendation, catch it this week. I think it's worth your time. I think you will enjoy it. It does move some of these storylines along. I'm interested to see what happened with Mr. Cisco, right? And we might be seeing Pentagon Jr. back before too long. So, very interesting now. A lot of interesting threads being left in our way. So, apart from that, if you guys did enjoy this episode, then please leave a like. And if you didn't, then please let us know why in the comments. If you have any sort of different thought tracks to me, do enjoy hearing from you guys. If you want to ask any questions, like I said, you can leave them in the comment section or on our social media stuff. I know I got a question that involves Lucha Underground, but it was one that I'm sure that my co-host will want to answer as well. So I'm actually going to answer at the weekend. So if you're wondering where that question is, I have seen it. And I've got it logged in for the weekend, so that definitely is getting there. But if you want anything, if you definitely want it to be answered here on the Lucha Underground going forward, just make a small reference that I'd like it to be answered on the Lucha Underground review, and I'll definitely do that at the beginning of the show. I've got no problem in doing that at all. Apart from that, my name's been Turbo Tony. I hope you guys do enjoy your week. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I'll catch you all next time. Have a great time. Thanks a lot now. Bye-bye.